your hot and techy Brezza, the Citybird SUV.
Sunrisers are on a serious roll. They have powered their way into the top two after brushing aside the Delhi Capitals for 67 runs. That's not a lot, considering how many we've seen scored in this game so far, but a convincing win in a chase that we will ask questions of, because believe it or not, even though the Sunrisers got 266, becoming the first team ever to score 3 250 plus totals in IPL history, Delhi were in this, and Delhi know that. So let's find out what the difference was. Another big day for runs at this time at Delhi on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket 4 Timeout with Tom Moody, Mitch McClenaghan, Wasim Jaffer. Let me just start with an equation on how that game started. Delhi got off to the perfect start for anyone who wants to chase 250 plus now, shall we say. 138 for 2 after 8 overs, Delhi. Same state Sunrisers, 131 for 3 after 8 overs, Delhi. Same state Sunrisers, 138 for 2. And the next 7 overs, 35 runs, 2 wickets, no boundaries. What happened?
It's a really good question. I just wonder whether they felt they couldn't win the game, but they wanted to limit the damage of potential run rate. But to me, that equation is out of the question for Delhi Capitals because they need wins and not worrying about run rate. And it was at a point where you felt that if they could just continue that momentum, dare to dream. You never know. Particularly when you've got, the batting lineup that has got a bit of depth with, Axar Patel, that I think came in at number 8. Yeah. He's got the capability of finding the boundary, and he's done that before in the IPL. So it was a bit puzzling that they suddenly put the foot on the brakes because it wasn't, the intent wasn't there. Yeah. That was the puzzling part. You don't mind people, swinging hard and trying to find the boundaries and mishitting it. That's a different story.
What's even more puzzling, if to add to that equation, is when they lost that extra wicket of Porel, who actually did a good job, as did those before him, they then, Mitch, had their 2 most informed batters, arguably, in Stubbs and Pant coming together, who stitched a partnership of 19 of 22.
That's your innings killer right there, isn't it? It almost looked as though the mindset was that they were the last 2 batters, which is interesting in itself. And whether that was the case or not, it just looked that way from the outside. It looked like they were trying to set themselves up to maybe do a Dhoni and see if we can chase 60 off the last 3 or something like that, where they had the momentum. They had Sunrisers under a lot of pressure, and they should have just been trying to almost be arrogant and saying, well, Tristan Stubbs and Rishabh Pant, we can finish it in the 19th over.
How much credit to the Sunrisers, though, with the 7 overs that were bowled? Pat Cummins used, I think, 5 different bowlers in that stage, including Nitish Reddy, who's, we didn't see perhaps that coming. But did the Sunrisers just not let 2 informed batters get boundaries?
I think the batters played themselves in. It was not the stage to do that. I think they should have not mind if they had lost with 100 runs by going after the bowling. They allowed the bowlers to bowl and obviously let Pat Cummins bowl those 5 bowlers. I just thought they took too long to put the foot on the pedal, and the game was gone by then.
Especially when you're looking 7 overs, surely a message would come out, or at least a chat would be had, wouldn't it, Tom? That, wow, we've got this star, this young kid, Jake Fraser-McGurk's given us a dream start. We're in the game here. And, okay, Rishabh, you're going to go in now, and Stubbs, you're going to go in after that. Just keep going. Surely that should have been the message. It didn't look like it.
But the captain was out there, Raunak. The captain was out there, so you didn't need to send a message. He's the one that's steering the ship. When the game's live, he's out in the middle, controlling where the ship's going. And at that point, as you quite rightly say, the ship didn't go anywhere, and therefore it came to a grinding halt, and it was an inevitable and painful loss. But as I think Wasim said, doesn't matter if they lose by 100 runs, or 120 runs. But wow, imagine if they got close, lost by 5 runs, or won with a ball to spare.
The 2 points is what mattered, really, wasn't it?
Yep. Questions coming through, and please send them through on our YouTube Live. Paresh asks about Pant as to why there's the impression that he's an automatic selection or being considered more seriously than others for the T20 World Cup with an overall T20 international strike rate of 126. It's not like it's different for him than it is for KL Rahul or Rohit when we discuss or Virat when it comes to strike rate conversation? It's a good question. This is the one international format he didn't boss, like he did with, say, Test cricket, for example. This kind of innings would, again, further make people question whether Pant is as good for the Indian team as some people who we think aren't.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about that, isn't it? I mean, he hasn't bossed this format as yet, especially in international cricket. And today he came out with, with very subdued energy and intent, just because they lost 2 quick wickets where Faisal McGurk got out and Abhishek Porel got out. He should have put the foot on the pedal straight away. There was no other way Rishabh Pant should have gone and played. Even if it got out cheaply, it doesn't matter. But that's the approach he needed to take along with Tristan Stubbs.
Yeah, why he's in the frame, in the conversation for that is because a few innings ago he scored 51 and then backed it up with 55 off 20 balls and striking at 220. So the signs that we were seeing from Rishabh Pant was that he could have done exactly that tonight and pulled off one of the most historic wins in IPL history. So that's why he's in the conversation. Tonight, obviously an off night for whatever reason, but he's shown in the last 3 or 4 games that he has the potential to finish and go at a good strike rate.
Is this also a difference of Pant batting first and batting second, and is this just a complete miscalculation in a chase from a key player on when to go big or how hard to go big?
I think it was just... No, I don't think it's got anything to do with batting first or second. I think it's more to do with just the fact that he had a night that he couldn't find his rhythm. That happens from time to time. Again, we've got to respect the fact that, he's been out of the game for a long time. And yes, he's given us a couple of fleeting, 50s that have been great and refreshing and, heartwarming. End of the day, he's been out of the game for a long period of time, and, you can't, even if you've been in the game constantly playing, you do have days, don't you, where you just feel that your timing's off and your rhythm's off and you're not hitting the ball anywhere near as well as you can.
And that's what we must touch on, because that to go at a really high strike rate in a chase is very, very difficult. We've just seen some...
It's different than setting.
It's different than setting. And if you're in a chase and you can control the innings and you can go 140 or 130, that's a bit different. But when you have to strike the ball, sometimes, like you say, when you've been out of the game for such a long period of time, you don't have that ability just yet to do it.
And the reason being is that there's no consequence when you're setting, but there's a consequence when you're chasing. So from a batting perspective, you don't know where the moon is, but you're shooting for the moon. But when you're chasing, you know where the moon is, so there's a consequence of you misfiring and falling well short of the moon.
It's like quicksand, right? It's like every dot ball or every single, you just sink a little bit further into that quicksand.
All these analogies are great, aren't they?
Keep going. I want a few more. Let me try and find more analogies here, because I know exactly what's going to stir up on a day where Dinesh Karthik's been quoted in the press of being fully ready and wanting to be back playing for India. And we go back to the same opposition, similar game where you felt it was too many runs, and DK scored an 80 of 30. And you wait, and if today they say, if Pant would have just come out swinging and nailed it, and today they're chasing 260, they probably get over the line. But look at DK's innings and look at Rishabh's innings, and look who's ahead in the T20 World Cup race.
What was Rohit's quote? It was like, it will take a lot of convincing to get MS, but it won't take much to get Dinesh Karthik out of retirement. So, yeah, it's fascinating. It'd be like, it almost see as Rohit's name came up on his phone, he'd be packing his bags for the World Cup. Wouldn't even read the message.
100%. If I'm to consider this seriously, though, I mean, I can see the skeptics of Pant for the same reasons that you've just brought up now. We've seen 2 good innings, but if he is still coming back from injury and expecting multiple high-quality innings from him is asking for too much, then should he be a serious contender for the World Cup or not? If this kind of innings shows up in a big World Cup game, then I'm not sure. I don't know if you could sort of satisfy the fans that he's just coming from a break, so this was expected.
I don't think. I think he's ready. He's shown his fitness by playing those kind of knocks, the way he's kept. I think you just need that intent to be there right from the ball one. That's the kind of player he is. Sometimes I get the feeling that he's subdued, and in T20 cricket, hard to go from gear 1 to gear 5 straight away. You need to keep pushing, from the get go, especially the number that he bats.
just carry on.
Do you think it's the captaincy that's maybe weighing him down with regards to him playing with that freedom that you're referring to?
No, I don't think so. I think he's a free-flowing player. Sometimes the calculations probably get into his head. That's why probably he didn't come, because he saw left and right combination. He sent Christian Stubbs. He could have come himself.
When Porrell was batting, yes.
Yeah, but was that his decision though?
I think looked like, I mean, probably.
From what we know of him, he's quite headstrong. Rishabh Pant as a captain. He's not necessarily someone who's relying on the head coach, even though Ricky Ponting is also quite headstrong. And then you have Saurav Ganguly there, of course, is just, perfect for that combination. But there are lots of personalities there. I still think Rishabh Pant, from whatever I gathered, is ready to take his decisions.
I think they would. I think they'd have that sort of in their mind, the left-right hand combination.
Yep. May I also, with that point, bring in someone who's actually competing with the same spot in a way and has the responsibility of IPL captaincy in Samson, as I take some questions over here too. Samson would have come out and played with intent and gone for it, is what JM is saying. So, if you have to stack up Pant v Samson with this kind of innings, what do you say?
Well, to be honest with you, I just don't like the flippant way that opinions get swayed over 24 hours on the basis of one innings, one performance.
Yep.
To me, that's mind-blowing. Yep. From a selection point of view, from my understanding, is that that's well thought out over a long period of time, and there's a number of considerations, and it's not done on a knee-jerk reaction of, oh, he hasn't got runs today, so we now need to talk about KL Rahul or Samson or Jatish or whoever it might be. It's like a roundabout. It's a revolving door. To me, you have your targets that you identify that you want, ideally informed. You definitely want them fit, but they fit the makeup of your side and the way that you want to play this World Cup, and how you're going to win this World Cup. It's not a case of, well, this person's jumped this person today and tomorrow that person's now jumped him. It doesn't work like that.
That's probably the most important point, right? Where you talked about how India want to play this World Cup. Rishabh Pant and Sanju Samson aren't in the same conversation. Yes, they're both keepers, but there's a high chance that they might look at a keeper who does bottom of the order, a keeper who covers the top. Or they're just going to go two keepers who cover the bottom of the order, or middle to lower order. Sanju Samson is cover for the top order as a batter, and if they want to have a keeper at the top. So he's competing with KL Rahul and those types of guys. Rishabh Pant's competing with Jatish and maybe now DK, right? So you've got Ishan, you've got Sanju Samson, and you've got KL at the top. So you've got two split separate groups, unless they come out and say, we're only looking at this style of player, which is the bottom of the order, because that's what fits with the style of play we want.
To me, the huge advantage that Pant has over all his competitors is he's a left-hander, because you've got Jaswal potentially as your opener with Rohit, you've got Virat at 3, or Surya 4, and if you don't have a left-hander, you're waiting until Jadeja. So that middle phase of the game, which is a critical phase, particularly in the Caribbean when spin's going to generally operate, you've got to have a left-hander.
So if they don't,
so his advantage is miles
they don't play
unless you
back.
field Dubey and Rinku, and then you have too many left-handers.
Yeah.
So that's where the other combination.
So then Samson's back. You rightly point out the Jitesh aspect, but why don't you just wait? And the thing is, what is unique about this year's IPL and World Cup selection is, of course, how little T20 cricket was played before the IPL, given the ODI World Cup was priority in the last 18 months. So very little bilateral T20 cricket was played. Pant's unavailability because of the unfortunate incident, and the fact that they have to look at IPL form, which in some ways would have come in the way of what you're saying. The clarity of having tried. How do you make a case for Pant when he wasn't playing for 1 year? Forget the circumstances. And if you're saying then I'm going to make a judgment call on my best keeper in the IPL, does he not stack up against DK?
Yeah, of course he does. Of course he does.
So before today, we would consider him back in form and fit.
We still do.
So, no, but clearly a lot of people's opinions is after today, he's still fit, but he's lost form because he didn't chase down 260.
One go.
One go. So that's the emotional roller coaster people are riding, and that's where I struggle to buy into that conversation.
James asking, why can't Samson bat at 4 or 5 or 6?
Well, anyone can. Anyone can do it, but have they got... You can imagine if India get knocked out in the semi-finals on the basis of the fact that their keeper is batting out of position and has had a poor tournament, who's going to get ripped over the coals?
Yep.
Or hauled over the coals?
The pitch curator.
Too often.
You know what I mean? Like it's exactly the same discussion that was had in the England World Cup where India took Vijay Shankar. Because suddenly they decided, right on the eve of the World Cup, we need a top order batter that can bowl medium pace. So Raidu suddenly was ejected out of contention, and suddenly Vijay Shankar came in from nowhere and was the most important person in their top 6.
You've got to pick players who are familiar in their roles.
Apparently so.
But you have to pick players who are familiar in the roles that they're going to play.
I can't think if there's ever been a tougher time for a selection panel, and I wonder if they are better advised to watch the IPL or not watch the IPL right now.
Oh, you have to watch the IPL.
I think it's about the intent, Raunak. We talked about it yesterday when KL Rahul batted, and we all got excited that this is the template. Somebody needs to bat. I think anybody, the message has to be to bat in that template. I think today, if Rishabh Pant had got 30 of 10 balls, we would have been happy.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary of it. If they lose the game by the same margin, but Pant comes out, gets 30 of 10.
That's what we need to see. We didn't want to see the defensive style of play. That's what's not needed.
From a game perspective, but it shouldn't really have anything to do with the World Cup selection.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be like a heartbeat every time a game's played.
Yeah.
The heartbeat either goes up or down.
It's a game. Cricket is a game where you fail more than you succeed, and that's what a lot of people forget at home. Is that as a cricketer, you've gone through it. The amount of times you actually succeed as a cricketer are very few. You might get on a good run where you have back-to-back good performances, but a lot of the time you don't feature. So that's something you've got to take into account, that consistency in cricket with so many variables is very difficult to do.
The stakes are just so high. That's the problem in our part of the world. Stakes are so high, and even the definition of success is often changing. Virat Kohli was India's leading run scorer the last T20 World Cup. Most cricketers would consider that a successful campaign, and yet there would be enough people questioning whether he fits the design of India's T20 team. So there is it's madness. But what I'm happy is, it'll be over in a week. The team has to be announced. Then we can talk about who they've picked, not who should they pick. It is so much easier. Let's just credit the Sunrisers though. They are going to send a proper message to if they haven't already, but to do it 3 times now as they step on the bandwagon and just move from one venue to the other, powering bowling attacks aside. Let's put into perspective what this does for the Sunrisers, this kind of performance. And this is now just a team that you almost sense, if you were in that dugout, Tom, like you have been in the past, it must be a lovely place to be, and they'd all be feeling like they are superheroes.
Well, it crystallises their philosophy and how they want to play this year. They clearly have selected a very strong overseas unit that have the capability of doing what they're doing, and they've given them they've empowered them to play a free game, and they've backed every single player. And with the captain, Pat Cummins, he's the perfect person for that setting because he makes people feel very comfortable in what they do, and even if they trip up and fail one day, he's not even looking twice at it. He's there picking you up and brushing you off and getting you to move forward to the next game.
Yeah. And from a performance perspective as well, we spoke about in the mid-show about how their lower order batters have found some form as well, which is very positive, but we've got to talk about Natarajan as well.
Yes.
The last couple of games, he's really started to hit his straps. I think at the start of the tournament he missed, and then he had that little break, and then he's come back, and he was one of the great exponents of the Yorker, wasn't it? Him and Boothie, and we just saw how they shut down that middle over period today, and with some good defensive bowling. And I think he got the rewards today. What did he take? 4 for?
Yes,
19.
Well, I reckon Natarajan bowled more Yorkers himself than the whole of the Delhi Capitals team did.
And that's something, if we go back now, the use of death bowling skills in the power play, is that one way perhaps to keep them down, keep them quiet, the Sunrisers?
100%. It's one of those things that we've seen enough of the IPL now so far this year. And what I've found really interesting is watching teams and their field changes during an over, whether it's the first over or the sixth over. A lot of the times the fields are staying the same for the whole over, or one or two changes are happening, and then the field change doesn't, I guess, identify as a viewer what ball they're trying to bowl. And so you're guessing, and quite often it looks like they're in two minds of what they're trying to do. So you're right, we've hardly ever seen a square leg and a long on back and then a leg stump Yorker. We've hardly seen that at all, or two back on the leg side in the over bowling slow balls, like into the knee roll. We haven't seen that as much as we have in past years.
Why must I not do Natarajan the great service of bringing him through our questions into the World Cup conversation as well? Rocky wants to know, if Natarajan is bowling so well, why is he not part of the conversation for the T20 World Cup as the left-hander, the left-arm bowler?
He will be if he performs like that, because like we've said, other than Jasprit Bumrah, we are not sure, because the form says everything. Siraj is, looks like he's struggling. Ashdeep hasn't had his best games. I don't know. I can't think of anybody else.
I reckon Ashdeep's been decent the last few games. I reckon he's kind of hit his straps. I'd say he's number one, but Natarajan, he might have just left his run a little bit late, potentially.
The thing with Natarajan is that he's a specialist mid-over death bowler. He's not a specialist power play bowler. So that's where Ashdeep's got the advantage. He's a three-phase bowler. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility, particularly if you do have injury issues, where you do need someone to step up and bowl 2 overs in the power play because Bumrah is out, for a game or two.
Yep, excellent. A couple of very good questions regarding Pat Cummins and the impact he's played. Vijendra wants to know, is he the difference, he's asking Tom, between the Sunrisers of this season versus last season? Pat Cummins, the captain.
There's no doubt that he's made a significant difference. I think not only that, but I think they recruited well in the auction. They've got everything in line. They've got Abhishek Sharma's another year older as an IPL player, and he's now even in the conversation around World Cup. Everyone's in the conversation around the World Cup. But, I think the timing it's all falling into place nicely for Sunrisers. That side's maturing. Abdul Samad's another one that's been persevered with for a long period of time. He's now maturing and playing some really impactful, innings. The only hole that Sunrisers have got is the spin department, and whether that raises its ugly head at some stage as the tournament unfolds.
I'll put you on the spot here, Moods. One of the interesting things about watching the game tonight was, again, the impact of Fraser McGurk. This is a genuine superstar, right? And do you think pre this tournament, he probably wasn't in the frame for the World Cup? He would have been on the fringe. Do you think he's a lock-in for the Aussie side, and who would be his competition? Yeah,
look, I don't know if he'd be a lock-in, but I think he probably wasn't in the conversation before the IPL. Yes, he's certainly been in the selectors' eyes because he started to play for Australia. But what he started to do here, you can guarantee that his name will be presented as a genuine option in that 15. And as we've seen, he can bat anywhere in the top 3. So it gives them the flexibility of an additional impact type batter.
I really like that we spoke of a different squad on the show for a World Cup squad.
I was going to say, is Australia in that World Cup?
Yeah, Fraser McGurk. Very good point. Right. All these things will be revealed very soon. But I know we're going on a bit long on this, but I like that people are engaging and also trying to almost question the wisdom of the panel, which is good in a way, encouraging these opinions. The left-handed point that Tom raises, I just saw something a little while back on the reason that Pant got such a long run in was because India didn't have a left-handed middle order. However, now with Dubey and Rinku, they do. So does that reduce his value?
The only way to answer that is, where is the keeper going to bat?
Yeah.
That's 100%. Dubey and Rinku are brilliant left-hand options. Put them in by all means at number 5 or number 6 or wherever you want. but who's going to keep wicket and where's that keeper going to bat?
Okay.
There's no impact sub.
I mean, if I could, I would ask between Rohit and Jaiswal and Virat to start keeping also. Or Surya, maybe Surya can take the gloves. Just try all of that.
He can do anything.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the last one. I think that's fair. Thank you very much for your comments. I know this is extremely passionate following for the World Cup selection, and every game will trigger some opinion or the other. JM wants to know to the panel, should a player be selected based on his previous record or current form? And if there's a clash between both, what prevails?
I think current form does matter. We will find out when the team gets selected, because obviously Virat Kohli's name was there because his previous record speaks for itself. But again, that strike rate and all that, because he was the highest run getter in the last T20 World Cup.
Would you tick his box on current form too, from what you're seeing in the IPL with 140?
But coming in before the IPL, he was a question mark.
Yes.
So I mean that. Lot of it depends on the current form as well. You don't want to pick anybody who's not in good form. Again, that puts a question mark on Jitesh Sharma. Again, so does Ravi Bishnoi, so does Yashasvi Jaiswal.
Yeah. So Jaiswal is probably the best example of that. And when you look at someone like Jaiswal, who on numbers, pure numbers, you would say he looks out of form if you're just looking at his record during this IPL. But you've got to look at the player and you've got to say, in those innings, has he looked out of form or has he looked out of runs? And they're two different things, right? So is he looking good at the crease? Is he looking like the Jaiswal that we're used to seeing? And I would say yes. He just hasn't got that score and he just hasn't had that major impact on the game yet. But it's going to come, and it might come in the second half of this IPL. So he's the type of person that I would be looking at previous form. When you're looking at selection.
Rajiv has just added to that and said a good example is also the discussion on Siraj. When it comes to form versus what you planned going into the IPL, what he's done previously.
I think we need to also understand that in a lot of the early games in the World Cup, India, like all the other major nations, are going to be playing against a few associate nations, and that's where suddenly, whether it be Siraj or whether it be Jaiswal, we'll get 100 off 60 balls and take 4 for 30. Or
100 of 60 good enough?
100% it'll do. Okay. He's back in form. But my point though is they're not going straight into the deep end of a semi-final. They'll have a number of games to acclimatise to the conditions, get their big runs under their belt or wickets under their belt, and move into the tournament flying.
Okay. All right.
But just the final point, which I think is a really important point, is around all this is that how do India want to play this World Cup to win the World Cup? That's the most important thing. It's all well and good just picking personnel, but what is it that Rohit Sharma and the selectors feel is their best way of winning this World Cup in the Caribbean and the US? Yeah. What is their philosophy? And pick your side according to that philosophy and don't look back.
Yeah. If you think there's going to be teams like Australia or West Indies who are going to be scoring 240, 250, then that might be the strategy. You might have to set your side up like that. But if you think in the conditions in the Caribbean, it's going to be a 150, 160, 170 tournament, then it's going to be a different selection criteria.
That's also the question mark. There's a lot unknown about, and there isn't. We
Control
haven't
the
chatted with Bish.
controllables.
We haven't chatted with Bish, and he himself said there is no generalization on the conditions in the Caribbean with day games and night games, with two of the venues not even having played any 2020 cricket in the last 2 years. So there's more intrigue. All right, fascinating. I think Stephen Fleming said something similarly recently. Pick a design of how you want to play and then pick players who suit it rather than the other way around, of picking players and then figuring what you want to do with them. Okay, awesome. All will be revealed soon. But yeah, we've praised a lot of the remarkable batting we've seen of the Sunrisers on our mid-innings show. So catch that if you'd like. Travis Head, the brilliance from Shahbaz Ahmed and Nitish Reddy as well to take them to that score, and Abhishek Sharma, who is also featured on our comment section as part of the World Cup to open with Rohit Sharma. 2 Sharmas to open. That will be so nice. What fun that is. Everyone should go to that World Cup. But I will take this last one on sort of a while back. Can Tom please name his top 3 bowlers to bowl to Travis Head? Is what I saw a little while earlier from one of our comments. But yeah, your top 3 bowlers to bowl to Travis Head.
Jasprit, Bumrah, and has he got another name to his name?
Lord, just see.
Well, put it this way.
The GOAT.
Put it this way. Bumrah is number one. Number two would be...
Bumrah's second over.
no, I'm going to be serious about it now.
Okay.
Bumrah, number one. Number two, I'm going to go for Sunil Narayan. And number three, eh?
Rashid Khan.
Yeah, thank you, Rashid Khan. That's my fellow selector.
We'll make a good team.
Yeah, there you go.
So I guess if you go into the auction next year on the auction table, you're saying let's try and get Bumrah, Rashid Khan, and Narayan. So
Well, they'll deal with more than Trevor said. They'll deal with a lot of people.
all right. And on that note, where we have touched upon a number of intriguing aspects from another wonderful game in the IPL, it's time to have a rapid fire review. So let's get straight into it. Wasim, describe the Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma partnership in 20 seconds.
Oh, brilliant. They are setting the game up for Sunrisers. Sometimes when you lose the toss and you bat first, the wicket's a little bit sticky and you don't know what's a good score. They come out and bat like that as if, 260 and 270 is a par score. So absolutely brilliant to watch and may it may continue for Sunrisers.
Mitch McClenaghan, Head, Abhishek or Fraser McGurk, your favourite knock of the day and why?
Oh, it'd have to be Travis Head. I think the pressure he took off Abhishek at the top to get that first over in particular off to such a dynamic start, I think kind of set the tone for the whole innings and allowed Abhishek the momentum to flow off the back of it.
Okay, very good. Tom Moody, as a result of that post that you put on X, not the tweet you put on Twitter, even I have to rewrite my own language now. Is Jake Fraser McGurk a contender for Australia's T20 World Cup squad, and if so, how serious?
I think he is a contender. He was probably a very outside chance before the IPL. Certainly the Australian selectors have been looking at him, but I don't think they were expecting his acceleration as it's been in this IPL, and he's compelling the way he's playing.
All right. Mitch, what did Hyderabad do right to pull things back after Delhi were 131 in 8 overs?
Oh, look, I think it was execution of their death style of bowling. Natarajan bowled beautifully, so did Nitesh Reddy and Pat Cummins in the mix as well. So it was about having a plan, a clear plan, and sticking to that plan.
All right, Wasim, how important was it that the Sunrisers middle order, the likes of Shahbaz and Nitish Reddy, had an impact in this game?
I think that's a big plus for them because the big powerhouse batters had gone. And for these guys to stitch a partnership and play like that and still get them to 260 plus, I thought that was a big positive.
Okay, and finally, Tom, we've covered this, but in 20 seconds, if you can, why did Rishabh Pant find it this hard to get going today?
I think any player of quality has a day where they struggle with their timing, and I think today was Pant's day that he came to the crease and didn't quite have that timing and rhythm to his game. So, he's as human as anyone.
Very well. It is now time, on a day where records have been broken again. They're keeping all the record keepers and stats keepers busy, the Sunrisers Hyderabad, that we have some records of our own in the impact zone. Before I go there, does anyone want to guess what those records could be?
He's gone lower than the minus. He's gone lower than minus 17.
Definitely, I'll be lower than the record that...
Try and think of an outrageous pick for the impact zone, if I club up a few things we've been doing, on what might be revealed once I show that scorecard. What do you think it is? I'm telling you that it's something that's never happened before on our show. What do you think it is?
3 players have got a negative.
Wasim, what's yours?
No idea.
Tom, want to throw something in?
don't know. I've just had a bad
Your
day.
3 players have gone negative.
Very well. On that note,
Yeah, that's true.
on that
Doesn't
note,
make me happy.
on that note, let's go to the impacts. Go on, Mitch.
That makes me happier than winning. And I didn't win. Jeez, Wasim Jaffer, well done, well played. That's outrageous.
The left side hurts you more than the right side.
It does not. I'll take it.
It does.
I'll take second place to Wasim to see you go minus 24.
But that's-
Warner
that's-
minus 7.5, Khalil minus 12.4, and Stubbs minus 4.2 for a grand total of minus 24.1. Get that in you, Tom.
And guess who's top of the table? It's not you. So get that back at you.
And well done, Wasim.
Oh,
I think that's
It all started from that first over. You picked Khalil, and the way
Yeah,
you
I
started.
just sort of thought his game plan might have been slightly different than bowling halfway down and, wanting to be hit over mid-wicket for 6 every ball.
Is that the highest?
I was
that
just
we've
coming
had?
to it. I must congratulate Mr.
That is
Wasim
quite
Jaffer.
mild.
That is the first 300 plus score on the impact zone.
Yeah, wow.
Just
Well,
mention
And if Mitch
SRH.
was more focused on the
Yeah.
person who won rather
Exactly.
65 of
That
18.
just tells you a lot about New Zealand, doesn't it?
than...
64 of 18. Yeah. And he stole my play as well.
I'd like to point out to our viewers that there are two
Stop my
types.
player.
He stole his player.
I've backed
What
Always
do you
a
do? I
case
wasn't
of-
near the
it's always a case of when I lose, he's got my player.
Yeah, but I've backed Fraser McGurkin the whole time. You just got to let me have him.
Well done. Well done.
Good tactics. Good
I've
tactics.
backed Bumrah in every game as well. You've got to let me have him.
I'd just like to advise our viewers that when life gives you an option to be a Kiwi and an Australian working together, be Cummins and Vittori and not Moody and McClenaghan.
That sounds boring. This is fun. This is enjoyable.
Very well.
This is entertainment.
Points table time, shall we? As we just look at what this does, this is significant. Hyderabad, team that struggled last season, find themselves exactly where they want at base camp in the IPL as we finish match 35. 10 points, second to Rajasthan. And what a good one that promises to be when we do witness it. But that's where we see Delhi now just pulled back. This is a good win. It puts their net run rate as well second only to the Kolkata Knight Riders. That could be very significant come the end of the league phase. And we, of course, have a big doubleheader coming up tomorrow. I think it looks pretty good that Hyderabad would stay there now. I think that's what you'll discuss on the pre-show too. It'll take some...
In the top 4?
getting, yes.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Well, they're playing a brand of cricket that they deserve to be in the top 4, and, they've got form.
They also will welcome the Royal Challengers Bengaluru in their next game to Hyderabad as the rematch of the epic 280-260 we got. That should be fun. Right. That's in...
Bangalore should win the toss and bat first.
At Hyderabad, that is, yes.
Yeah.
So they should do that.
Not allow them to bat first.
Yeah. Yeah. Try and be in the game for longer, perhaps. As
So there's no more records.
All right, and on that note, we wrap things up. It's a big doubleheader tomorrow. Thank you very much to Tom Moody, Mitch McClenaghan, and Wasim Jaffer. Thrilling discussion on so much that went beyond this game of just extraordinary batting that the Sunrisers Hyderabad are now showing us right through the IPL. Join us tomorrow for build up on the doubleheader, 3 o'clock, just around the toss for the afternoon fixture. KKR take on RCBs, so build up to that. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket 4 Timeout. Download the mobile app if you haven't already. All the stats that and plenty more and records that were broken will be up and about, and you can catch it on the ESPN Cricket 4 mobile app. We will see you tomorrow afternoon. Good night.
All new hot and techy Brezza, the Citybird SUV.